Recording. Stop.
I didn't understand it. What did you say? Did you say don't talk now?
Yeah, I said don't talk now. I didn't know I got turned.
Don't set your beard on fire.
Wait a minute. There we go. All right. Well, welcome to Jeremiah Creek.
I'm Bill Burlington.
And yeah, I'm Dave Haynes. Although it does say it on the bottom now. Well, it's reversed.
A lot of our listeners can't read, Dave.
Well, especially since it's backwards. I don't know why.
It's not backwards on mine.
No, it is on the. Here, wait. Let me flip the screen. But I think that might. Yeah, see, that flips the background.
Oh, weird.
Weird. It has to do with Minicam. I don't know. Maybe one of these days I'll figure it out.
JD Vance can help you.
Maybe. What's going on? I'm still in Tennessee.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's where you live now.
Not too far from Meat Camp, North Carolina.
What the hell is that?
It's an actual place.
Is it like a town, or is it like a butchering camp?
No, it started out as a butchering camp in 1788, and now it's a town. I tried to get the Meat Camp Baptist Church T-shirts, but apparently they
okay.
don't sell those.
I'm Googling that right now.
They don't sell the shirts. And look what else I got.
Hang on a minute.
Can you see that?
Wait, I lost you. How do I get back to Dave?
You're still on here. We can still hear you.
There you go.
Here, can you see this?
What did you do, man?
Poison ivy.
Oh. Oh, hey, Dave, when you're in Tennessee, watch out for poison ivy, man. It's
You know what? It was funny.
Rough.
I was cutting down, chopping up the tree that fell in my yard, and the first couple days, I wore long sleeves and rubber gloves because the guy who cuts the grass, he's like, "Hey, listen, there's poison ivy on that tree, and I'm really allergic to it." And so I said, "Okay, no problem. Just leave it till I get there, because never bothered me when I was a kid." I got there, but just to be safe, I wore long sleeves and jeans and boots and everything. After a couple of days of just being overheated and stuff, I was like, I don't see any poison ivy on this tree. And so I started wearing short sleeves. And the last day I was doing something, I was burning up stuff. I started getting the rash. So there was some poison ivy, but I didn't see it.
Yeah, poison ivy is bad, and then the other one is poison oak, which, I mean, poison ivy, we were taught kind of how to identify it, even though no one ever gets it right.
Leaves
but poison
tree,
oak,
let it be.
Yeah.
I still remember.
Is there one of those things for poison oak? No, there's not.
No, there's not.
And poison oak is worse than poison ivy.
Well, poison ivy, when I was a kid, when I was a Cub Scout, stuff never bothered me at all. I was like immune to it or something. Apparently when you get older, it doesn't stay immune. So
were you immune to it, or are you just lucky?
I suppose I possibly was lucky, but I remember being out in the woods with other kids and them getting it and me not. Oh.
Yeah. I mean, how did we ever go through camping with the Cub Scouts and not have a debacle with poison ivy?
I think it's pronounced debacle. Did you do that on purpose?
No. No. God damn it. You know what? I want to know all the words I mispronounce so that when I go to England, I don't sound like an idiot.
Well, I remember, God, it brings up a memory of mine.
Yep.
Because I know a lot of big words from reading, but a lot of words you don't use in a conversation very often. And I remember when I met my in-laws, so this is going back 40 years or whatever, I somehow used I used the term facade in a sentence, but I had pronounced it the way it because I never had used it before, so I pronounced it facade.
Man, we've all done it. We've all done it.
Yeah, and I remember my mother-in-law going, it's amazing. You mispronounced that word, but you used it properly in a sentence. And I'm like, well, I read it. I never said it
So
before.
50 points
Yeah.
for that.
The other one, it took me until I was actually working in radio to know what segue. Well, I mean, I knew what it meant, and I knew how it was spelled, but I didn't know how it was pronounced until that was
What did you say?
Sieg.
Wow. Wow. I mean, the thing is, none of us know until somebody tells you or you hear it. You never know that you're pronouncing a word wrong. I mean, people can go their whole life and pronounce a word incorrectly, which is why if you hear somebody pronounce a word incorrectly, you should be nice and let them know.
And not laugh at them like I just did.
Yeah, you shouldn't be a dick at it because you're also pronouncing something incorrectly somewhere in your life. You definitely are. There's that, and then there's not you, but every once that in my mind was.
Hold on, you're breaking up for some reason. You like froze with a really funny look on your face. Actually,
Giles. I'm sorry.
You froze up there for a second with a really funny look on your face.
Yeah, I think it's because my internet sucks today. I was saying that for years I thought Wales, in my mind, Wales is at the top of the English island, right? The British Isle.
Yeah.
And it never occurred to me that that's actually where Scotland is, and Wales is down at the bottom. And then I never, because I don't know history, I also didn't know that Wales, like Ireland, was a conquered country, and every once in a while they clamor for independence. Yay, I'm all for. So for years I saw that, and then I think when in 2010 when we were planning our trip, I was like, and then of course we can drive up to Wales, and my wife looked at me and goes, "Where do you think we're starting from?" It's like London, and she goes, "You go down to Wales." I'm like, "Honey, I think I know where Wales is at. My family is Welsh, and I was totally wrong." For years, man.
You know what though? It's funny. People do say drive up to if they're used to, if they're used to driving, like you're used to driving up to Wisconsin. You could say drive up to stuff, and it doesn't necessarily mean.
This time it did though. Yeah. I mean, when you grow up in Florida, by the way, that's something everybody says drive up to because you almost go nowhere that isn't north.
Key West, yeah.
I'm
going to drive up to Key West.
Yeah, you would say that in Florida. I'm going to drive up to Miami. You live in Orlando, like I'm going to drive up to Miami. Everyone's like, what the hell's the matter with you? Because you're used to going, I'm driving up to Georgia, I'm driving up to Jacksonville, I'm driving up to Chicago.
I had an interesting rural fun thing. I'm sitting back here watching TV or doing something, and Andy goes, "Hey, somebody's driving up the driveway." So I go outside, and for this, talk about weird, my neighbor drives up and goes, "Hey, I just bought a tractor. Look at this tractor I bought," and drives up there. And he's I don't know if you met my neighbor Danny when you were here. He's at least 10 years older than me. And he is he's one of the town morticians. So he is all right. You know how morticians, you have to be, very nice and dignified, and he dresses nice and dignified. And he took his tie off while he was driving the tractor, but other than that, he still looked like the dignified, elderly man driving this antique tractor on my driveway.
Was it an antique tractor?
Yeah, I bought an antique.
So, like, is he a collector or something?
No, he's got. He says he's got two, and he goes, I used to. He used to do some farming on, like, the land down the street from us is a little bit more wide open than mine. Mine's more wooded, and he said I used to use plant some stuff and do some stuff, but he goes, I don't anymore. I really don't need this tractor or the one other one that I have. And I'm like thinking, I said this to Annie. I said, imagine the conversation in that house today. Why'd you buy another tractor? You don't need another tractor. But he just thought it was a cool tractor, so he bought it.
Well, he's got that mortician money. Yeah. Those gold teeth got to go somewhere.
Well, and I suppose I don't know this, so Danny, if you're watching, I hope I'm not giving away any secrets. I suppose that if you're a mortician, then and in a small town, the people that died, what they have, and what they might want to be selling in the next few weeks.
Where the apartment's opening up.
Yeah.
My dad dated a mortician after my parents got divorced.
Dated one?
Yeah. She was this is the 70s. So I'm going to go with like 75, maybe 1975. And she was a Russian immigrant who came here and was a mortician. And she was, even at my age, even when I was that young, I thought to myself, she is out of his league, man. She used to always wear these like knee-high leather boots and in Florida, by the way, and like a fur jacket and everything. She was hot. And I was like, how did my dad? Of course, my mom was fairly attractive too, but she wasn't Russian mail order bride attractive.
I wonder if you do that work, do you cut down? Like, it wouldn't bother me, I don't think, but do you cut down on your dating pool if you're, if you know, well, my girlfriend might be the one cutting me open and embalming me in a few days. I don't know.
I mean,
do people find that weird, being a mortician?
I think people do find it weird. I mean, wouldn't you? I mean, if you can imagine yourself back in the dating game, and you meet somebody and you're like, wow, that's really nice. And after a long, really good conversation, you go, so what do you do? And they're like, I'm a mortician. You're like, oh, okay. All right. So, she, for one thing, she sees more male appendages than most people do because she's got to do that work. On the other hand, they're all 90 years old, so I guess that doesn't matter.
Well, they're all flaccid, I guess.
I hope. I assume. I wish I wasn't talking about this. I know I brought it up, but whatever.
I told my wife one time that I wanted to pay the mortician when I went. I wanted to have a wake where I was laid out completely nude and pay the mortician to add a few extra inches so that when people come up to her and say, I'm sorry for your loss, they really mean it.
Yeah. I like the idea of paying somebody to come and dress all in black or dress like a clown and sit way in the back and just weep. Yeah. Uncontrollably, and like nobody knows who they are, just uncontrollable weeping.
I told my son that I wanted him to hire a sad clown. Just sit there and not say anything. Just sit there during the wake.
I like to hire a bunch of guys that are clearly Russian hitmen to come in and just stand in the back, and every once in a while, like, wipe a tear, but never speak to anyone. That would be very cool.
I had a friend who was killed, and at the hospital, his girlfriend showed up, and then his other girlfriend showed up, and
nice.
Yeah, three girlfriends actually ended up showing up. So that
nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess you had to tell them sorry for your loss. So, yeah, I am sitting here today I'm exhausted because I was up with my dog all night because my dog is losing his mind and his legs have stopped working properly, and we're trying to figure out when to do the thing. But he rallied again. It's really irritating.
Well, wait, let me ask you a question. Did you decide? Did you decide to put him down? Yeah, but when my wife gets back from Hawaii. Okay, so here's the thing now, and I looked this up. So I'm going to tell you an anecdote, but I looked it up. This happens a lot. When we decided, my dog was really sick. We decided to put him down, and we were waiting a day or two so that everybody could say goodbye. And he rallied during those 2 days. And when I asked the vet about it, the vet said, "Yeah, they know, and they basically come to terms with it or something." And so him rallying might just be he knows that his pain is almost over. Well, I hope so. But my wife makes with the dog, in her regular job, my wife is a savage, reason-based, database decision-making law machine. But in her private life, every decision in her life is made
completely from an overabundance of emotion. And so when the dog is getting bad, she's like, she keeps buying all these different ramps and stuff. Bought another one the other day, a giant ramp with the back. She's like, oh, it's going to help him. Like, it's not only is it not going to help him, but I'm going to fall off that freaking thing. And last night around 4 a.m. when I had to take the dog out, I almost fell off that damn thing. And now it's out in the middle of the yard because I got mad.
Well, the other way to put it is at some point you have to be like, the quality of life gets to a point where you're just causing this poor animal pain for no reason.
Yeah, we have the ability to stop all that, and if you don't do it over an abundance of emotion, then that's inappropriate emotion. So I didn't mean to bring the show down. I'm sitting here in this funk in my house because he has not made it all the way outside a couple of times. So I've been putting my steam cleaner through the paces.
Are you looking down at the dog right now?
Am I what?
Are you looking down at the dog? You look like you're.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm staring at my dog while I'm talking. He's asleep over there. So I hate. I have insomnia, and I'm really fortunate that I can sleep late. But on the other hand, it really screws up my productivity because the truth is, if I sleep really late, I don't have a lot of time during the day to do the work that I need to do because at some point I got to feed my family and I need to do housework and stuff because I'm the wife, and but man, insomnia is one thing, but dog somnia is worse because you fall asleep and then he starts barking and you got to jump up and go downstairs and take him out. I tell you, I'm exhausted and I feel not very funny today.
Well, that's too bad.
And I know I'm so hilarious the other days. It must be difficult for you, Dave.
I had a topic. I have a topic actually.
Carrying the whole show like you are.
Yeah. I'll just let you go. But I got to talk. Hang on. It was funny. I was reading a story in the Atlantic, and it's a letter thing. And so let me get it here. Okay, so there is a guy named James Parker who writes a sort of okay, he explains it here. Every Tuesday, James Parker tackles a reader's existential worry. He wants to hear about what's ailing, torturing, or nagging you. Submit your lifelong or in-the-moment problems to Dear James at theatlantic.com. So I started to read it, and I actually was like, the headline caught my attention because it was my colleague repeats herself constantly. And I had a guy that I worked with who the only reason I was able to put up with this is because I knew he had a good heart, but you would have a conversation and he would say the same thing over and over again 3 times. Whatever point he was making, we would repeat it over and over again. And so I thought that this was about something like that, and I was wondering what this guy would say, but it wasn't. So I started reading this column, and the first one caught my attention. The second one I thought you wrote. So the second letter I thought came from you, so that made it like, okay, I got to bring this up on the podcast. But here, let me read this first letter. So this is Dear James. I find myself growing irritable at one thing in my life and one thing alone. I work with an older woman who repeats herself constantly. She has the same 3 jokes and says them daily and expects us all to laugh and or respond as if we hadn't heard them before. I notice my younger colleagues nodding and smiling. I am less genteel. In fact, I see that my desk, rolling my eyes so far back in my head, I fear they may get stuck. It creates a rage in me that's truly inexplicable. I like to think that a younger me would just ignore it and laugh on cue, but current me has considered quitting this great job over not being able to handle something so insanely trivial. I'm sure you're thinking, well, if that's the worst thing in your life, you're doing okay, but I do have real things to worry about. They don't affect me like this. It's just this one stupid thing. Does the irritability of minor annoyances worsen with age? I thought that with age comes wisdom, One would think it would be wise enough not to let this rattle me to my core so much. I've truly considered I might be going insane.
This makes me want to start an advice column, Dave.
I know, right? I just thought I was sitting there going, you know, I can understand, you know, there are, I don't have like things like that piss me off, but there are times where trivial things annoy me. But usually they annoy me to a point where I can sit there and go, well, this is why am I getting so annoyed? This is stupid. And
Yeah.
So I was wondering what you thought of that letter, and then I'll tell you what James Parker did.
I mean, it does sound like something I would write. And
no, that's not the one you would write.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh my God! Well, then you got two, because I'm annoyed. I am disproportionately annoyed when anybody says period of time. It really pisses me off. It like I actually get angry about it. And if somebody says it like and they're not doing it just to fuck with me, because there's some people that do that. But if it's actually in their real, like I had
there's going to be some period of time where I'm going to use it just to mess with you. Sorry, I threw you off track, didn't I?
Yeah, you threw me off track, Dave. I'm trying not to yell at you. I especially hate it when a writer says it or a journalist says it, then or writes it. Then I'm truly incensed, because that just shows to me, I write that person off immediately, because now I realize that they do not pay attention to their own language and their own usage of words, which means how can I really trust them? Because anyone that writes for a living and anyone that thinks for a living pays really close attention to the words that they use. And if they catch themselves using a tautology like that, they quit doing it. Nobody says ATM machine, because you sound like a moron when you do that.
Yeah.
So why do people say period of time? It drives me nuts. That'll make me crazy. And then
you know what? Now that you mention it, I brought this up, I think, a few weeks ago. When I'm watching TV and somebody says no pun intended, it drives me nuts, because it's a script. The pun was intended.
Yeah. And in it, you know what it is, Dave? It's lazy writing, because you're right. That is a script. So it was the writer that did that. And so what the writer did was there's a name for that. It's not a cliche. There's another word for it. It's almost interlocution. It's almost a filler word, like, you know.
Yeah.
So when people say, hey, you know, or I say like all the time, those are called interlocutors. And I'm probably saying that incorrectly. And they're filler words. They're almost there to keep the rhythm. Like the reason I curse so much is because cursing is a way for me to put a particular rhythm into the things I fucking say. And so when a writer puts in what you just said, what did you say?
No pun intended.
No pun intended. That is an unconscious inclusion right there. And it's sad that they didn't go back and remove it for the exact same reason that you said.
Yeah. And by the way, I wasn't going to correct you twice in the same conversation, but it's interlocutor.
Are you sure? I think you're fucking with me right
no,
there.
I'm serious.
I think you're fucking with me. Right, although you're one of the only people that I know that would know that.
Let's hear James Parker's response to that was, ooh, I feel it. The dreadful imposition of another sensibility, the silent rancor of the oppressed, the sensation as you listen to this poor lady and her jokes that your time, your life, your essence is being not just wasted, but forced slowly backward through your veins. He kind of goes on describing it, but
oh, wait a minute. I didn't talk about my reaction in that situation, though.
Oh, okay.
If I was him, if I had somebody at my job that was doing that, I would not get upset about it.
But would you say something about it? Basically, what his response was is that, you know, nothing succeeds like direct action. I don't mean yelling or a terrible scene. I mean something like said with as much gentleness and good humor as you can muster, and you'll have to dig deep. You know what? I've heard that one, Gloria. You may be amazed at the result.
No way. No way. That person is not doing that consciously, man. That person is so Gloria is socially awkward.
Wait,
right?
You think she's doing it consciously? Because he's basically.
I think she's okay. Yes and no. I think that she has she probably somewhere trying to figure out how to deal with her awkwardness, read about how humor can help, and she locked in on those three jokes, and it just never has occurred to her that repeating them over and over again is an awful thing to do. And but at the same time, it's become a pattern for her that softens the blow of feeling so awkward. So they're also a shield for her and a mask, and so they're very important for her. And this guy's just being a dick. Like, honestly, I mean,
well, actually, the paragraph I skipped over because I wanted to use it later. He kind of does say that, but he basically says people do that unwittingly, and as if they don't realize that they're telling the same thing over and over again. It becomes a habit, and
yep.
The only way to break that habit is direct action with as much gentleness as you can muster.
Well, I do have a technique for that. Believe it or not, I've done this before. And
laughing hysterically, that's kind of what I thought you would have done.
No. What you do is when you know the words to the joke as they're telling it, when they get to like the punchline, the last three words, you say it with them. You don't yell it. You just go, and that's why the horse fell in the mud. You just say the words as they say it. And you do that a couple of times, and then they realize that everyone knows their joke, and you haven't been rude, and they may not even hear you say it. It's like jingling your keys at a party, you know. But it will. I bet you anything if you do that. I mean, in my experience, they come back with new jokes.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. All right. So I'll read the second letter, the one I thought, as soon as I read it, I thought you wrote it. And then I'll go back because there was his second paragraph, the one I kind of skipped over, had a quote in it that sent me down a rabbit hole. So, so here, the next letter was, Dear James, I've had insomnia my whole life. Sleep and I are in an abusive relationship. I've had all the tests. EEGs tell me I have too much REM. I've done all the things, CBT, Ambien, benzos, Benadryl, melatonin, and various combinations. I sometimes fall asleep well and then wake up sweating, feeling sick about dreams about babies hatching from eggs in a creek behind the retired paint factory. That's right there where I thought you wrote it. Or pulling dozens of mummified rats out of my floorboards and getting arrested for mailing them to Donald Trump. That too made me think.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
Or driving a flying school bus full of children through the Bermuda Triangle, which actually was a television show that my kids watched when we were younger.
Wow.
Other times I feel like I'm almost asleep all night, but not quite. A lot of the time I'm awake in the night. I'm having existential dread. It doesn't help that I've studied existentialism and sleep disorders between undergrad and grad school, and I feel like no one has told me anything new. I know all the things, and I know I'm doomed. Sometimes I try to imagine myself happy, like this is good for me, or I'm better at this than anybody else, so the joke's on you. But how long can I delude myself? Anyway, if you have anything new for me that I haven't tried yet, I'd love to hear it. Sounds like you, right?
Yeah, I mean, my insomnia is basically what I have is a split sleep schedule. So I wake up every night around, and it doesn't matter what time I go to bed. I wake up around 3:30, and I'm up till 5:30 or 6, and I sleep again and finish out my sleep schedule. So. But imagine if I had to get up every morning at 7 and go to work, which it used to be that way. I mean, it'd make you crazy. So, but I don't know. I found that I have found a way to fix it, and that is that I have I take Benadryl, like she said, and then I have a weighted blanket, and that's changed everything. So my insomnia is slowly, it's happening less and less.
But then your dog started doing it.
Yeah, my dog is like, oh, you get enough sleep? Let's fix that right now.
One part of his response was pretty good. Your brain is so much more interesting in mine. Look at all the imagery. I'm actually rather jealous of your visions and reveries between states. Not for you, the tedious binary of being awake and being asleep. You're also a vivid writer, so I recommend plunging into the half realm, the hypnagogia. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. And making it your own. Write it up. For an idea of how to proceed, and they gave it. So.
I mean, use it, man.
Yeah. I thought that was an interesting way to do it. All right, so in his other paragraph that he wrote that sent me down a rabbit hole, Um, he was he was writing to that lady who repeated everything about the. And he said, and see, he goes, what other people are going through, what it costs them to just keep showing up in however reduced a form. I try to keep in mind these lines from France Wright. Someone in hell is sitting behind you on the train. Somebody burning unnoticed walked past in the street. And I was like, who the hell is France Wright? I never heard of it. And so I started looking up France Wright, and he's a poet, and he's got all these very short, weird poems. And that was from a poem called About God or something like that. And it's actually very short, and those they don't connect to anything else. But he's got some other poems that were really good. I ended up downloading a book on Google Play of France Wright's poetry.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was kind of cool. Well,
I'm studying poetry in my class right now.
Really?
I'm on the third week of our poetry unit, and it has been really surprising because I kind of, every once in a while I write a poem, but most of the time I don't pay much attention to it. This section, who knows, Dave? Maybe you'll become a poet. You got a beard for it.
I do. Yeah, it's a very nice beard. But yeah. So that was.
Is it Franz, like Franz, or
yeah, Franz?
Okay,
like Hans and Franz.
Franz. So, with the guy talking about the woman who repeats things, sometimes stuff like that is a gift, right? Because a lot of the time, a lot of our life, we react to things without thinking, and we get upset about stuff, and it's disproportionate, and it's also usually there's no reason for us to be upset if we just thought about it for a second or two. And so if you have things like that bother you and you pay attention, it's an opportunity for you to learn how to get over it. I can't stand it when people whistle tunelessly. All right. I want to punch them in the mouth, right? But I have a niece who does that all the time. So when she comes to visit, she just walks around, and she's just exactly like my wife. So that when she comes, they're like locked in together doing a project. So it's this constant whistling, and it's completely tuneless. If you can imagine, there's no tune, it's not in any key. It's just like a tea kettle that's broke. And oh my God, the whole time she's here, it's me in my head going, it's cool, man. It's, she's not doing it on purpose. She doesn't know what's happening. It's not fair for you to be upset. This is the thing that she does. And it's like, oh my God, it makes me crazy. but it's a lesson, If you teach yourself.
I don't think I get bothered by things like that. Or I mean, I guess I just don't notice things like that.
I mean, maybe. Yeah. I mean, I'm a touchy motherfucker. If you click a pen or you crinkle paper or something like that, I've been known to. I was driving somewhere with my brother-in-law, and he had a Diet Coke can, and he would press it in and it would click, and he would let it go and it would click, right? You know what I mean? Like there's a depression on it, and he was playing with it, and I said, "Can I see your Diet Coke for a minute?" And he handed it to me, and I threw it out the window. I was like, "Enough is enough, buddy." All right, I do have a topic. Are you done with your topics?
Yeah.
All right. So last night I was watching the new Penguin, right? The new Penguin was the only Penguin. And by the way, wow, I was really not expecting it to be as good as it is.
I've heard some great reviews, and also I've heard reviews where they'd say the same thing you would say, that they were shocked by how good it was.
Yeah, I mean, I'm used to comic book based stuff being, there's a level that it gets to, and it's like it's still comic book stuff. There's always going to be a little Tim Burton aspect to it, but this thing never goes there ever. And it's a really good crime drama, and with incredible acting, like just incredible acting and incredible cinematography. Like the narrative aspect of the cinematography is so good that I kind of want to write about it. But they still did one thing that I hate, and it is so prevalent in everything lately that I almost feel like it's time for a petition to Hollywood, and that is vomiting. I've had enough. All right. I've just had enough. I know why they do it. All right. It's because it grounds a character and it makes them real, and it makes you show when you see somebody throw up, you kind of feel it a little bit. So it also brings the viewer into the thing and it makes it visceral. But I mean, it's just an old cliche now. And it happens in like so many different shows, and you never know until it's too late that it's going to happen. And I am so sick of it. And I don't know what I want to write a letter to Hollywood and say, please stop. Enough is enough. Find a new way to do this.
Me and my wife turned on. We couldn't decide on anything to watch. We were watching TV, and so we turned on MASH. And it just so happened to be the episode where Harry Morgan became Colonel Potter, and the guy who plays BJ Honeycutt, it was his first where he comes to Korea.
Yeah.
And there was a scene right after he gets there where they're in some kind of battle, and one guy dies, and he throws up. And I'm like, I completely forgot about it. I didn't remember that scene, and now you mentioned it. That's I think the first time I saw that on TV.
I mean, yeah, exactly. Back when it was
the 80s. That's
like late 70s, really, don't you think?
No, I think it was right around 1980. I don't know, maybe late 70s.
Well, when the first time you see something like that on television, and imagine the first time that we saw like full frontal nudity of either gender. I mean, that was a completely new thing, and it was like, it probably worked in the situation it was in, like with the MASH thing. It made you feel it, right? And it really said something about the character. But most of the time, all it says these days is, "Oh, and they threw up," and it doesn't. It's just unnecessary, And it really bothers me in a show like this where is so nuanced and so brilliant, and then they do that. But also, this is the other thing. I tend to watch TV at.
Well, he froze.
So I get
it. Wait, you froze again. So hang on a second.
There
you go. You had actually a good look on your face that time.
Thanks. But I was saying that I tend to watch TV at lunch or at dinner time. So it's my wife and I sitting down.
Sitting down. Your wife and I sitting down. See, now you got a goofy look on your face now. Oh, you might have froze for good this time. Oh, this is my. That was actually my. That was my internet that time. Sorry about that.
Yeah, you're frozen, but I can hear you.
Oh, well, I mean, yeah. Now it seems to be working okay now. For some reason, all of a sudden, it popped up that my internet connection was slow.
I wrote notes here, and now I can't read my notes.
Hey, who is the star of that show? Because one of the things you were talking about was the makeup of the star, the guy who plays the Penguin.
Colin Farrell.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just like you can't believe that it's him, but every once in a while, you realize that's who it is. But for the most time, it's not Colin Farrell. The makeup and his acting are so complete that he's a different person for real. And it's hard. It's hard. I told Colleen this. It's hard to equate what I see on the screen with who I know is doing it. It's like a person in like a monkey suit or something. Like you can't see Colin Farrell at all in this thing. He's in a penguin suit. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I haven't watched it yet. I meant to after I heard that last review. So hopefully, in the near future, I'll be able to watch it. It's on Max.
I think you definitely should.
It's on HBO Max, right?
Yeah. What the hell did I write? Roamed a trail?
As long as you're talking about that, I heard I read a review of a movie that's, I think it's coming out now. I don't know, called La Cochina.
I don't know anything about that.
And it's I guess it's a remake of something that was out years ago called The Kitchen. where it's immigrants, all these immigrants from different places come together in this sort of a kitchen. It's sort of like The Bear, but without the highfalutin elitist attitude, apparently, according to National Review. And
I'm all in. Then.
yeah, it sounded pretty good. It reminded me, the way they described it. I saw a play in Chicago called "How to Properly Use Knives," and it was set in a kitchen. The entire play was in the kitchen, and it was this guy who obviously was a busboy, but obviously much better than that. And they had a drunk chef and some other people that were characters of it. And it turned out that this guy was some kind of not just an illegal alien, but somebody who had been involved in some kind of war or something. And he escaped and he had come to America, and there were people looking for him. So it ended up like they had immigration looking for him, and he had these gangsters or whoever they were looking for him, and it was but it was an interesting kind of a play, and this movie kind of sounds like that, although there doesn't seem to be any guerrilla warfare or anything going on. So
Those are my favorite kind of movies, man. I and TV shows. I love anything that is a dramatization of behind the scenes in a kitchen. I've watched a couple of these German short videos that are kind of like the Menu or the Bear and their drama aspect of it, and the tension they show in behind the scenes in the kitchen. And oh my God, they were so good. And there's that show Whites from the BBC that was on like 10 years ago. So funny, man.
I think I saw the first episode of that.
So funny.
The Big Night. Remember The Big Night with Stanley Tucci?
God, I love that movie.
Oh, that was a fantastic movie.
So good, man. And anyway, there's so many other ones like that. It's like a genre that I never realized until you just said that. I never realized I was into it, but I am into like chef movies for sure. So I think it's pretty cool. I've never written that way though. I should write about that.
Yeah, you've been in the kitchen.
Yeah, I'm kind of sucking in the kitchen lately. It's hit or miss lately because I got my head somewhere else all the time. So, I made gumbo the other day and it was good, but I did Alabama style gumbo.
Oh. What's the
and
Alabama?
So it's not served with it is a really particular part of Alabama, right? It's just outside of Birmingham. It's the Chelsea Crescent right there, and but they make their gumbo traditionally, but instead of serving it with rice, they serve it with cold potato salad.
Ew.
A big hunk of cold potato salad in the middle of the gumbo. Yeah, you say that, but wait until it's got to be cold, and it's got to be store-bought potato salad. It can't be homemade. It's got to be store-bought potato salad because there's a particular thing about that. And oh man, it's really good. But the potato salad was terrible, so that didn't work out. I don't know, what did I make recently? It didn't work. A couple of times recently I've made stuff and it's just like, no. Yeah, I made a roast the other day. It was like rubber.
I got one right now. We're making pot roast, and we bought it from a farm. So it's cut directly from the cow. While we were it's not true. I mean, they brought it in.
They rode the cow in. A friend of mine has chickens, and they just got old enough to start laying eggs, and they're yard chickens. And he lives way out in the middle of Wisconsin, basically in the woods. And so these chickens, he doesn't feed them very much. They get most of their food from eating out in the weeds and everything, right?
Yeah.
And so he brings them to lodge, and if you want some, you hit the Venmo button and you take a dozen home. And I took some home the other day, and first of all, wow, really different from regular eggs. They're just more eggy.
Yeah. I used to get eggs. One of our sergeants has a farm out in Galena, and she used to bring them in from a I don't know, what do you call those people that don't use technology?
Amish?
I think, yeah, it's an Amish farm. And like for the last year, she's retired now, she still does it. She would bring in hundreds of dozens of eggs. She would buy basically all their eggs, and we'd buy them. And when the first time I had them, I was amazed at the difference. I want to get chickens here in the spring. I plan to get chickens.
Oh, you definitely should, man. And the cool thing is because his chickens are wild raised, free range chickens, the colors of their eggs, man. The eggs I had were like 3 different sizes. Every one of them was a different size, from little bitty ones all the way up to large ones, and they were all different colors, from like sort of a light, almost a blue green color to like a dark brown color, and everything in between. It was crazy, like opening up a case of jewelry or something. Amazing. But my wife won't eat them.
Why?
She's like, nope. My wife is touchy, man. Look, when we first met, I've always been adventurous in terms of food and stuff like that. My dad helped me figure that out when I was a kid, and but my wife grew up, in this neighborhood in a Irish Catholic family that the most adventurous thing they ever ate was Yorkshire pudding, and so when she met me in Florida, when we used to go out to dinner, almost every time we went, I would order something she'd never heard of, or she'd never had guacamole. I met her, and she was like, "I'm not eating that." And I was like, "You should try it." She'd never had red wine. She'd never had any Cuban food at all, but also she doesn't trust anything that didn't go through a factory before she eats it.
Oh, yeah, I've been like that. I just me and my wife have always been adventurous about that. Although she just bought gluten-free cream of wheat, and I'm like, I wouldn't eat regular.
How does that work?
I wouldn't eat regular cream of wheat, so I don't know what gluten-free cream of wheat tastes like.
That's cream of wheat is like, it wishes it was grits.
Yeah.
It like aspires to the rough and readiness of real grits. Like, grits are a real man, and cream of wheat is like metrosexual. I don't get it.
All right. Well, I'm gonna have to get going because my pot roast is just about done. So
that is the way we should end every broadcast.
Yeah. And my dog's already barking to eat.
Oh man.
Looks like
I think we need to you know what? Let's talk online about planning and other stuff like that. But it was a good show.
All right. Wait, let me make sure that we transition out to our logo. All right. Thank you for joining us.